How's it going, guys? And welcome back to another video. Also, welcome from Copenhagen. I'm currently here for a few days on a business trip, and it kind of made me think of this question that I have for you as well. Can you use your iPhone as a main photography camera in 2022? Now, I already know what some of you are going to be saying.
But I already use my iPhone as my main camera. I don't have the money for another nice camera.
Or you're on the opposite ballpark of,
well, I already have a several $1,000 camera set up that I bring with me everywhere. Why on earth would I ever want to use my phone?
This was the conundrum that I was dealing with when I was packing for my trip. As with every other time I've traveled, I've had all these thoughts and amazing ideas and fantasies of what I'd be doing with all this tech and gear that I'm going to bring with me, only to realize, well, I can't actually bring all of that stuff with me because, for one, because I have a spine that can break, and two, it's just not very viable or logical to carry all of that weight with you if you're only going to be using it for a little bit, especially if you're in a case where there are restrictions regarding how much you can bring on with you, and paying extra money for a check-in bag if you're only going to be using an item for a day isn't really all that, financially smart. So while I was packing my bag, I thought to myself, what are some of the heaviest items I bring with me? Obvious for one is going to be my laptop, and following that is going to be my clothes usually, but clothes are a necessary item. We don't want, everyone running around naked. Kind of gross. And as for my laptop, I like to use it as my all-around workhorse device while I'm traveling. It allows me to type up scripts, it allows me to edit videos, to make thumbnails, and just be my all-around working device when my iPhone isn't doing it for me. And while you could say that I could just get an iPad, I think the iPad's kind of useless in 2021, specifically for the Pro models, given how much they cost, how much more expensive they are spec for spec compared to a MacBook, and for the sheer fact that Apple just refuses to let it actually be a Pro device. That's a whole nother rant for a later video that's going to be coming out, so I'll be able to explain all my reasoning there. But for now, just know that my MacBook is a necessary evil, and so is clothing. Therefore, what is something that I can be able to cut out? And when I weighed it, my camera setup was several pounds. I currently like to use my Sony a6000 and my Sony G Series 16-35 2.8. And while it's not the best photography setup, obviously you could go with something like an A7 III or even an A9. Cost per pound, it's a really good way of taking quality photos without having to worry about things such as how you're going to eat food, how you're going to pay your bills, what happens if you get robbed, that's your entire livelihood gone. It's just nice to not have to worry about all that with a cheaper camera setup. But then it makes you wonder, well, what about the cameras that iPhone boasts about all the time? So I figured I'd give it a try. It'd be a way to be more minimal and cut out a lot of weight and not have to worry or deal with batteries, and only give me one thing to charge, one thing to use, and whenever I'm out in town, I can traverse as lightly as possible. And after using my iPhone for a couple of days, I gotta say, I'm actually blown away by the quality that I got. Just look at some of these photos and clips I was able to get. But quick disclaimer, I am using a newer iPhone. I'm using the iPhone 13, not the Pro, just the regular 13. It has 256 gigs of storage. So if you're using an older iPhone, your results may vary, but all in all, I think you're still going to get a pretty good bang for buck as far as weight and actual picture quality. So let's take a look at some of these. So this picture that I took was actually one of the first ones that I had taken while I was on my trip. And I have to say, hands down, it was one of my favorite and still like my favorite photo that I took so far on this trip. And my trip's almost over, so I think that kind of says a lot. The way that the light easily reflects off of the water, the crispiness of it all, it makes it look as if though its reflection is more of a painting. And just how in focus and sharp that boat is looking against a slightly blurry background of the buildings. It's just a beautiful photo, and I imagine it's quite hard for a lot of people to tell that it even was taken on an iPhone. Granted, that's the title of this video, so it's safe to assume that I was going to be using my iPhone for this. But if you took this photo and showed it to someone on the side of the street, they'd be like,
wow, what kind of camera do you use?
and then you pull out your iPhone, they're like,
Oh, well, I knew that.
I promise you, they didn't. They're going to be looking at their own phone and being like,
Wow, I gotta take some classes or something.
So for this photo, it's not as super sharp and detailed as the boat, but I still like it because A, seeing it in person looked incredible, and B, it kind of shows more of the water itself rather than trying to show how sharp every single leaf is. So this one's more of an artistic interpretation, but I thought this photo looked incredible. And again, this is taken on an iPhone. This isn't using any app. I'm not using Moment or Filmic Pro or anything like that. This is the stock camera app. Not even adjusting anything in post. These are all the raw photos. And you know, for how simplistic it is to get these shots, just pull out your phone, click, and put it away. You can't ask for anything better. This next one is one that I picked specifically just to show how sharp it is for those who were a little bit worried from the last photo. And this one is a picture of a national Danish treat. I forgot what it was called. And yeah, it was absolutely incredible. I got it from Juno's Bakery. Shout out to Juno's Bakery. It's delicious. But as we look here, I know it's portrait. Bear with me now. Yeah, even when I zoom it in and blow it up a lot, you can be able to see very easily each of the crystals of sugar. Every single one is defined. You can even see the light patterns that reflect off of it. And this photo is very sharp and just very, and again, you're using an iPhone to do this. And it's just incredible the type of quality that you can be able to get when you're using, when you're using something like this. Now, in all fairness, there are some caveats when it comes to using an iPhone as your main camera. One for which is going to be shooting in harsh lighting conditions. So this picture, for example, it's not honestly too bad. You can see that the iPhone was going for a very sharp background, so you can be able to see the jagged lines of all the branches against the background of the light, which I like. But because it's in direct harsh sunlight, you can't necessarily adjust the exposure very easily, or you're not really going to, because it's an iPhone, you're going for simplicity. It causes this trunk right here to be a good bit darker than the actual outline of the skies and the trees around it, which when I was looking at it in real life, was actually a lot brighter. You can adjust this in editing, but take photo out the door. That's the whole point of it. And these photos are all taken raw, so it's kind of a gamble as to whether or not you're going to get an absolute banger you don't have to touch, or if you're going to get something that's going to be a work in progress. Of course, this iPhone doesn't just take pictures. No. It also does video as well. So let's check some of it out. How does that work for them? Well, actually pretty dang well. Using the iPhone cinematic mode. It's a mode that essentially has the iPhone play the role of a professional camera, having a nice blurry bokeh in the background like you would in portrait mode, but adjusting it organically throughout the video depending on what it thinks the subject is, and it'll then track the subject, keep them in focus until you either have another subject that is the primary source that you want to have in the frame, or until it just simply can't find the subject anymore. And I think it works really, really well. You can see that the statue itself is sharply defined. It does get a little bit soft in the brighter areas, and I think that's because the iPhone is starting to confuse it a little bit for the background. But all in all, the statue is in frame. The background is nice and blurry, not so blurry that you can't see anything, but blurry enough that it makes you want to focus on the statue, which is really good. So, All said and done, do I recommend you using your phone, or specifically your iPhone, as a main camera? Kinda, yeah, actually. If you're traveling and you want to be as light as possible, you want to ensure that you don't have to worry about losing your camera or having it stolen, then I can easily recommend using your iPhone as a camera. As long as you are able to look at the photos that your phone can take and you are okay with it, then by all means, go with it. And for me, I think it's okay. I give it the seal of approval. Now, for more professional people who want absolute control of every aspect of their camera and want to be able to easily go and edit things, I think it's great. I highly suggest you give it a try. In the end, you're still going to have nice photos, and that's what's important. If you're going out with your family and you're just taking some snapshots to put on Christmas cards or to look back on fondly in a photo album, is anyone really going to remember or even care that it was shot in 8K, or that you used 422 ProRes when you were, recording a video of your family member sitting on a chair or something? I don't think so, honestly. Long rant aside, I know this was a whole jumble mess of a video, but I really wanted to make this just to kind of say it's possible and you should kind of do it, because a lot of people are scared to make videos or take photos and put it online because they don't have the latest and greatest camera. You do. The best camera to use is the one that you have. So why not use the one that you have in your hand? Unless you're watching this on a laptop, in which case, I mean, you can use your webcam. It'd be a little bit of a pain, but you can do it. But with all that said, that's the end of the video for now. Let me know in the comments how you feel about using an iPhone as your main camera, or just simply as a camera in general for more than just taking snapshots. And let me know if you've had any experience with it and what you thought of it. Are you someone who thinks that you can only get the best photos traveling with a professional photography setup? If so, I want to hear about it. And with that, that's all I have for this video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day,
Go take a shower. You stink.
and I'll see you guys next time. Later.